0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
All right, the 2022-2023 NFL season is fully beginning tomorrow, and a lot has happened since the last time I covered my Eagles. Trades have occurred, and every team is finalizing their 53-man roster. Today, I want to look into the Eagles roster and preview the upcoming season schedule. So, to start off, let's look at the defense, as this is the side of the roster that has seen the most recent amount of change. On August 30th, the Eagles made a trade for Saints DB Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. In the trade, the Eagles would receive Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2023 5th-round draft pick and 2 6th-round draft picks. Johnson is 5'11", 210 pounds, drafted in the 4th round at pick 106 in the 2019 draft. He's played a total of 43 games, tallied 161 tackles, 122 of those being solo, 3 sacks, 5 interceptions, and 28 pass deflections. The Saints have usually played Johnson at slot corner, but Johnson can easily fit into either role of slot or safety, a spot the Eagles have especially been lacking at. Johnson will play alongside Marcus Epps and Kevon Wallace to provide some much-needed stability at safety. This acquisition especially solidifies the rest of the Eagles' defense. The secondary will now consist of Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and Marcus Epps. This group will heavily rely on Bradbury, Maddox, and Epps matching Slay and Johnson's consistency. The linebacking core will see a rotation of Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, Hassan Riddick, and the rookie Kubbi Dean, the player I'm probably most excited for this season. The Eagles will also look to their defensive line to probably be the spot on the defense that has the most potential for this team. They have a crazy amount of depth on this defensive line when it comes to rotations, as they're going to have veterans such as Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and Javon Hargrave, with a young core of Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, and rookie Jordan Davis. The Eagles have good depth, but will really look for Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat to prove they can fill in the gaps on the line as Brandon Graham ages. Rookie Jordan Davis will also look to prove that he can be a consistent force on the field and prepare for a potential future that may see the Eagles move on from Fletcher Cox. Overall, the pieces are there for the defense, but this is a prove-it year for Mr. Jonathan Gannon. The Eagles ranked 18th in defense last year. Gannon has the talent. Now he just needs to prove he can adjust and use his pieces properly to match the potential. The Eagles' defense looks to improve off a season where they were 26th in takeaways and 31st in sacks. Now, the Eagles' offense is a tricky one to assess. Let's start off with the most consistent part from last year. Though Brandon Brooks retired, the Eagles' offensive line still looks to be top tier. The Eagles still have veterans Lane Johnson, Isaac Samalo, and the legend himself, Jason Kelce. Although many feel this is Kelce's final year, the Eagles are prepared with the man he specifically called to be drafted, rookie center Cam Jurgens. Jurgens will serve a backup role, but he will see time being rotated in at other positions, much like Landon Dickerson was last season. Speaking of which, he will see time playing at either guard position, while Jordan Mailata fills in as Jalen Hurts' blindside blocker. The biggest question mark comes in the form of tackle Andre Dillard. The Eagles at the moment have not traded the former first-round pick. They will look to probably move him at the deadline. Whatever assets they gain at that point in time will be a reflection of their season, either something to help them make a playoff push or assets for a disappointing season. The receiving core looks to be something special this season. A bright group of Dallas Goedert, newly acquired A.J. Brown, second-year Devontae Smith, and pieces with upside such as Zach Pascal and Quez Watkins. The most suspect part of the offense is definitely the running back room. Miles Sanders is a big question mark. His health and consistency is something that the Eagles will have to watch. When given the touches, Sanders has shown flashes, but many times rarely sees the field. Last season, Sanders did not even record a touchdown. He's in a contract year and will look to prove he can be a stable piece in the running back room. Boston Scott will continue to be a valuable bench piece out of the backfield and continue being the giant killer that he is. And finally, Kenneth Gainwell will look to continue to show the Eagles what exactly they have in him through the touches he gets, though his ceiling may be a similar role to that of Boston Scott. And finally, we get to the quarterback, the position that the entire organization and fan base is looking upon with big expectations. To many, this is Jalen Hurts' prove it year. To many, we have given him the pieces and he needs to prove he can elevate this team. However, I think many are kind of being unreasonable with this matter. Does Jalen Hurts need to prove he can be a good passer and overall leader that can elevate this offense? Yes, but the expectations have to be within reason. Hurts still needs time to establish chemistry with this team. Off the field, he's already proven to be a great locker room presence and easy to root for. As far as season expectations, he needs to show he can balance the rushing and passing, and overall show growth at passing. When it comes to team success, I believe Hurts can prove it in two ways. You see, last season, the Eagles lost in the wild card in a blowout to the Bucs. So if you want to look to improve upon that, the two ways that Hurts can do this is that he can either lead the Eagles to the divisional round, or at least a close loss in the wild card where he showed he can step his game up. If not, the Eagles have the assets to either draft a new quarterback or even trade next offseason. Now, the final part of the season, the schedule. The Eagles open up against Detroit. In my opinion, if they can repeat what they did last year, it should be an easy win. But when it comes to the Eagles, I always look towards my favorite YouTuber, goes under the name C4. I really enjoy his Eagles content. And when I was watching his video talking about the Eagles schedule, I agreed with a lot with what he said. You know, the fan base kind of looks at this. We look at the name, you know, we look at Detroit and we write it off as an easy win. But the one thing I've always told my dad is like the hardest part with the Eagles is that many times they don't play beyond their competition level. Many times, instead of playing above the competition, they lower themselves to the competition. Obviously, like I said, last season, we didn't see that when we went against Detroit. They elevated their play and made sure that it was an easy win. Now, if they can repeat that, like I said, it can be an easy win. But at the same time, Detroit has drastically improved. Maybe not to the level of a playoff contender, obviously, but, you know, they still have added pieces that make them a different team from last year. And just because it is the Lions, the Eagles should not walk into week 1 expecting this to be easy. But it'll be sort of a game that sets the pace for what we're looking for in this season. Week 2 is the home opener, and sadly, I think the home opener ends in a loss. Though changes were made on the defense, I don't know if it is enough to stop the duo of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Weeks 3 through 5 sees the Eagles go against the Commanders, the Jaguars, and the Cardinals. All 3 weeks, without injury, hopefully, I think are wins. The Cardinals game is definitely a toss-up, but I really believe DeAndre Hopkins' presence will be missed. Week 6 is Dallas at home, which as history has it, will probably be a loss. Whatever it is, it's usually always kind of a reverse type of factor where Dallas beats us at home and then we beat them at home. Then it's the bye week, and after that is a game against Pittsburgh. At this point in the season, Kenny Pickett will likely be starting, but I don't think that will be the reason the Eagles lose. This is a game that I think the Steelers' defense will simply be too much for Jalen Hurts. Weeks 9 through 11 sees Houston, Washington again, and Indy. I think Houston and Washington are easy wins again. Indy is another toss-up for me though. If the Eagles don't improve their rushing defense from last season, this can be an easy L for us. Week 12 is Green Bay. Sure, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have receivers, but you never count him out. I think it's a loss. Tennessee, I think, is the same situation as Indy. If they can contain the rush, it can be a W. If they allow Derrick Henry to be the Derrick Henry that we know he is, it will likely be an L. New York and Chicago, I believe, are W's at this point. Though New York has made some improvements, I just don't think it's enough to, on paper, overpower this Eagles squad, and Chicago will likely be in another tank season. If I'm just being honest, they really need to focus on exactly what they want to do for Justin Fields. I think they split with Dallas and win it here in Week 16. Week 17 is New Orleans, and this is a real toss-up for me. This is a tough game and team to assess. I think I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the win, but this one is also a toss-up like Indy and Tennessee. a lot of people were kind of writing off New Orleans, but they can be a sneaky team, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And then finally, the season closes with the Giants. The only way I see the Eagles lose this game is if they are tanking or their position in the playoffs is solidified. At the end of this season, this puts the Eagles at a record of 11-6. The changes that could be made are the toss-ups of Indy, Tennessee, and New Orleans, which could see them potentially have a record of 12-5 or 13-4. But I think 11-6 is more realistic for this team. There is a lot to be hopeful for, and I truly am excited for this season, which means I will likely be disappointed and put through the most grueling Eagles season since Chip Kelly was here. But with that being said, I hope y'all enjoy opening day essentially of the NFL season tomorrow. I will be watching the Eagles game, and this is kind of going to be a big announcement and big on my part, but I think I can confidently say that though I will probably look to cover various games throughout the season, I think the one confirmation I can give is that on Tuesdays at least I will likely be covering every Eagles game of this season. So whether it is I'm able to catch them live or watch actual detailed highlights, not just the big plays, so I can actually give thorough analysis, I will be coming to you every Tuesday, likely for Eagles Tuesdays if you want to call it. But with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining for another episode of Game Day, and as always, remember, many things in this life may seem impossible, but if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.